Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to draw a square using a ruler and a compass. Now, a square is a regular polygon with 4 sides. There's a lot of regular polygons you can draw with a ruler and a compass, but there's a lot you can't. How do we tell if we can draw a square? Well, the rule is this. If n is the number of sides, in this case 4, you find all the odd prime factors of n. Well, 4 doesn't have any odd prime factors. Anyway, once you've found them, you check these two things. Are they all different? Well, there aren't any, so sure, they're all different. And are they all powers of 2 plus 1? Well, sure, because there aren't any. So, because 4 passes these two tests, we can draw a square using a ruler and a compass. So let's do it. So, I'm going to draw a square which sits inside this circle. So the 4 points of the square, the 4 corners of the square, are going to be points on this circumference here. The way to do it, you take the compass, you make sure the radius of the compass is set to the radius of the circle, then you put the point of the compass on B, on the edge of the circle, and you draw yourself a little arc. Well, maybe not so little. Make sure it goes all the way round to the other side here. So there's the arc. Then you take the ruler and you draw a line from this point, C, I'll call it C. Draw a line from C all the way through B to that point to that little extra bit of arc you just drew. That gets me a new point which I'll call D. Finally, or next, you draw a line between D and A. A is the center of the circle you started with. Make sure that line goes all the way across. And last of all, well, let's call this point E. Last of all, draw another straight line from C through A to the other side of the circle. Then this point F, these 4 points, this one which I haven't named, I'll call it G now. C, E, F and G, they form the 4 corners of a square. Let's draw it. And there it is, a square inside a circle. Maybe instead you want your square to have this line segment as one of the edges. Well, what you can do is this. First, make the radius of your compass equal to the length of that side. Then you start by drawing an arc through here. Great big one all the way around. And another arc here. This will have to go up to there, above B. And you'll also need a little bit out the outside here, just over here. Okay, this construction from now on looks very similar to the one we just did when we wanted to draw a square inside a circle. So we start by taking this point, going through B, with the ruler, and finding this point here. Let's give these names. We'll call this one C and this one D. Then, as before, you put the pencil on D and you draw a straight line from D through A all the way over to this piece of this circle here. So let's call this E. You have to be very careful when you do these. Make sure they're very accurate, or your square won't look much like a square. But if you've drawn everything perfectly, this edge, this length here from C to E, is exactly the right length to be the diagonal of your square. So let's try that. Let's see if I got it right. From B, I draw this diagonal length. Now remember, this edge, this circle here, the radius is the length of the edge of the square. So this point and this point, this radius now is the diagonal. This should be another point of the square just above A. And then I can do the same trick with this arc and these 2 points here. We can give them names. Let's call them, we called that C, D, E, let's call them F and G. These 2 points should be the other corners of the square, if all's gone well. So there's the edge from A to F, from B to G, from F to G, and from A to B. And you have a square, whoops, you have a square right, you have a square which uses AB as one of the edges. Make sure when you're drawing it, you don't let the ruler slip. So you've just got one straight line. Finally, what if you want the square to actually be outside the circle? What if you want a big square with the circle just touching the edges of the square? Well, this is how you do that. Again, you start with almost the same construction that we did for the other two squares. I make sure the compass is set to the radius of the circle that we've got here. Then I'll draw this point and another little bit of this arc down here. Then I'll get the straight edge, the ruler, and very carefully I'll draw a line from this point. Let's call this C again, and we're going to make the point E all over again. So there's the point E. D, we'll call this D again. We've always been calling it D. E is the point up here. I draw the line from D through the middle of the circle over here. We'll call this E. Now, again, if I set my compass to CE, then I think that's about right. Do you? Once I've got my compass set to the distance from C to E, I use it. Okay. Make sure the compass is set to the distance from C to E, and then put the point of the compass on the point of your original circle and draw a big circle all the way around. This circle, if I find 4 points on this circle which make a square, the edges of that square will just touch the first circle I started with. And how do I find those 4 points? I'll make the compass equal to this distance CD. And then I'll start here, any point will do. This one's nice because we've already got this straight line. I just should have drawn it a bit further. Then I can join these 4 points, these 4 new points. Let's give them names. None of them have names yet. P, Q, R, and S. And if I join them up, I should find I have a square which just touches, whose edges just touch the circle that I started with. And there it is. So there you have it, 3 different ways to draw a square using a ruler and a compass. Either drawing a square inside a given circle, in other words, with a given circumradius, or with a given edge, or with a given in radius, so that the circle is inside the square.